Be me, 29, married to my husband, 32, for 5 years. We met in college. He wasn't the loudest guy in the room or the one making speeches at parties. He was the one quietly making sure everyone got home safe. He carried extra water bottles to class, just in case. He always noticed when I was stressed and brought me little snacks. No big, flashy gestures, just this consistent, steady presence. When we first started dating, people used to say he was too good to be true. The kind of boyfriend who would spend an hour helping me edit an essay, then wait outside in the cold so we could walk together afterward. I didn't think of it as too good. I thought of it as love. He proposed right after we graduated. Nothing Instagram worthy, no fireworks, no drone shot beach photos. We were sitting in my favorite diner at 2 a.m. sharing fries. He pulled out a modest ring, handshaking, and said he didn't want to spend another year without knowing I was his wife. I cried, said yes immediately, hugged him so tight the waitress clapped. And I was happy. Genuinely. I loved the simplicity. I loved that it was us, not a performance. Fast forward 5 years into marriage. We live in a modest apartment. Nothing fancy, but enough. Back then, he wasn't buried in work. In fact, he gave me all his time. Movie nights on the couch, long walks after dinner, showing up to every small milestone in my life as if it were a big one. He made me feel like the center of his world. He's pretty attentive. Once he sold his motorcycle, the one thing he'd splurged on for himself, so I could pay for a design course when I decided I wanted a career change. He packs my lunches, leaves flowers on the counter on Thursdays because that's discount day at the grocery store. He once stayed up until 3 a.m. building me a new desk for my online classes, even though he had work early the next day. I noticed. I did. But lately, that steady love doesn't feel like fire. It feels like reruns of a show I already know the ending to. Predictable. Safe to the point of boring. Then there's my new friends from the design course. They're the kind of women who glide into a room like it's a runway. Perfect nails, handbags I couldn't afford even if I maxed my card. Always talking about trips to Milan, the newest Hermes release, husbands who invest in them. One Sunday, we went to brunch together. Bright cafe, big windows, everyone dressed like they were expecting to be photographed. The table filled with plates of fancy food and sparkling drinks, and I felt like I was in a scene I didn't quite belong in. They started comparing their rings, literally sliding them off, stacking them side by side, laughing about which stones caught the light better. Curious and honestly clueless, I asked, "Wait, so, people actually upgrade their rings? Like, after the wedding?" They all froze for a second, then burst into laughter. Aria, the boldest one, shook her head. "Of course. You think love's supposed to stay the same size forever?" Another girl chimed in. "Yeah, like, if he's growing, you should be too." My husband upgraded mine on our 3rd anniversary. It's like a progress report. I laughed weakly, trying not to look out of place, twisting mine under the table. I'd always thought of it as perfect, because it was us, because it meant something. But suddenly, with them watching, it felt small. They didn't stop there. The conversation shifted into bragging about how their men spoil them. Paris getaways, surprise Cartier bracelets. "Oh, my husband won't even let me touch the bills. He says my only job is to look good." I kept asking questions, half out of genuine curiosity, half trying to seem like I was in on the culture. "So, he just books the trip without telling you?" Wait, they really notice stuff like that? Rings, bags. They smirked at me like I was a kid asking if Santa was real. Then one of them leaned over, eyes on my hand, and said, "Is that a promise ring?" The whole table laughed. I did too, but it was automatic, my face hot. I envied them. I wanted their lives. Why can they live like that, and not me? That night, I went home and sat on the couch, turning the ring on my finger over and over. The same ring I once loved, the one I'd cried over in that diner when he proposed. Under their voices, it looked small. Like I'd stopped moving while everyone else's lives kept scaling up. And then, of course, my phone joined in. My For You page suddenly flooded with TikToks whispering, "Don't waste your prime years being someone's placeholder." Instagram reels about the soft life, about women choosing themselves. I used to roll my eyes at that stuff. It seriously didn't matter that much. But now it felt less like background noise and more like advice. There's also a part of me that's jealous because why do those girls get to be spoiled so much and flex their husbands like that, and I don't? And maybe that's why the contrast at work started stinging more. Through the design course, I landed a few freelance projects, and Enrique was one of my first real clients. A big account, charismatic and polished, the kind of man who seemed like he belonged to another world. He could walk into a room and have everyone laughing within minutes. He complimented me constantly, called me brilliant, said I lit up the place. I brush it off, but every time he says something, it lands like a spark compared to my husband's quiet nods. The worst was when, at brunch, after all the bragging, one of the girls looked right at me and said, half joking, but not really, if he really loved you, he'd be leveling you up, not clipping coupons. Everyone laughed again. I did too. But inside, something cracked. That was the first time I thought, maybe what I've been calling stability is actually proof that I settled. After that brunch, I couldn't shake the comments. My friends with their glittering rings and their Paris trips, me with my discount day flowers and the same ring from college. I told myself it didn't matter. I wanted to believe it didn't matter. But then little things started slipping out. One night, we went out for dinner. Nothing fancy, just our favourite hole-in-the-wall Italian place, the kind with candles stuck in old wine bottles and red checkered tablecloths. We were halfway through our pasta when this red Ferrari pulled up outside, engine roaring like a lion. Heads turned, my husband smiled, shaking his head. God, look at that thing. I can't even imagine owning a car like that. It should have ended there. He meant it as a passing comment, just appreciating the machine. But something in me snapped at the opening. I swirled my fork around the pasta and said, trying to sound casual, "Funny you say that. Did I tell you Aria's husband bought her a new Porsche? Just for her birthday." He blinked. Fork paused midair. "A Porsche? For her?" "Yeah." I laughed lightly, though my stomach was tight. "And get this, another girl in the group, her husband booked them a surprise weekend in Paris. Just because she was stressed with work." His eyebrows knit together. "Wow, that's a lot." I leaned in, pretending it was just chatter. "I mean, isn't it kind of sweet though? Like their husbands just step up, you know? Make them feel special. Sometimes I wonder if we're missing out on that kind of leveling up." The second I said it, I saw the way his face shifted. A flicker of surprise, then something heavier. He set his fork down carefully, like buying time. "I didn't realize you felt that way," he said quietly. I shrugged, keeping it breezy. "I'm not saying I need a Porsche. Just, it would be nice not to always count coupons, to feel spoiled once in a while." He nodded slowly, swallowing. His jaw tightened, but he forced a smile. "Okay, I'll try. I want you to feel that. I'll work harder, figure something out." And that was it. I didn't push further that night, but inside, I felt both victorious and guilty, like I'd poked a bruise I didn't know was there. He followed through, almost too quickly. Within weeks, he was buried in work. He's an operations manager at a logistics firm. Lots of moving parts, deadlines, crises that pop up at the worst times. Normally, he'd clock out at a reasonable hour, but now he was picking up extra projects, volunteering for late-night calls with overseas clients, taking on side consulting just to pad the checks. And the money did show. Suddenly, his paychecks had more breathing room. For the first time ever, I walked into a boutique and bought a real designer bag, a Saint Laurent tote for $2,400. Not a knockoff, not a dupe, the actual thing. I still remember standing in front of the mirror at the store, heart racing, thinking, I can't believe this is mine. And when I showed it off to my friends at brunch, the way their eyebrows lifted, the way their voices went, "Oh, okay, look at you." For a second, I felt like I belonged. Like I wasn't the odd one out with the coupon-clipping husband. But the cost showed at home. He'd stumble in past midnight, tie loose, smelling like stale coffee and exhaustion, sometimes too tired to even eat the dinner I'd left out. More than once, I found him asleep on the couch with his laptop, open on his chest, emails still half-written. Our walk stopped. Movie nights disappeared. Half the time, I woke up to an empty bed because he'd already left for an early meeting. The more he gave, the less of him I actually had. And it hit me. The thing I used to brag about, how present he always was gone. And it was because of me. I told myself not to care. I told myself this was the trade-off. Isn't this what I asked for? More money, more status, more proof that he could provide. But then the loneliness started creeping in. Yeah, I could flaunt new outfits, I could order the appetizer without checking the price first. But when I sat at those brunch tables, sipping lattes while the girls talked about their trips, a different bitterness grew in me. Because their husbands weren't just rich, they weren't just providers, they seemed to have time too. Running businesses on autopilot, taking calls from their beach houses, surprising their wives with midweek spa trips. Meanwhile, my husband was grinding himself into the ground just so I could carry one Saint Laurent bag. And instead of feeling spoiled, I felt abandoned. One night, I snapped. He came home late again, eyes bloodshot, really looked pathetic. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through Instagram, staring at Aria's newest post. A diamond bracelet captioned, "Spoiled again, lucky girl." As soon as he walked in, I said, "Babe, I can't do this anymore." He froze. "Do what?" "This. You're working all the time. I barely see you. And yeah, there's more money, but I don't feel, wanted. I want both. The money and you." He rubbed his face with his hands, clearly torn. Then he came over, sat beside me, and took my hand. His voice was tired but gentle. "I'm doing this for us. Because I don't want you to feel left out with your friends. I thought this was what you wanted." "I do want it," I said, frustrated. "But I want you too. I want to feel like we're not just roommates with bills." He looked at me for a long moment. His eyes were so tired but soft, like he was weighing every word before he spoke. Then he squeezed my hand and said quietly, "Okay. Then go. Go out with your friends more. Have fun. Pick up some hobbies you've been putting off. Do whatever makes you satisfied. I'll handle things here. I'm working hard for us, but I don't want you to feel trapped. Live a little." In his mind, I know he meant reassurance. He meant he trusted me, that he wanted me to enjoy myself instead of sitting home, bored and waiting for him, that I could fill the gaps in our life with things I loved until he could be present again. But the way it landed, it felt like permission. Permission to go out. Permission to say yes to drinks. Permission to text back. Permission to chase whatever would make me feel alive. And the truth was, there was already something in the back of my mind. Someone. My client, Enrique. The way he called me brilliant. The way his eyes lingered when I spoke. The way he made me laugh. Really laugh, like I hadn't in years. He had money, confidence, charm. The exact combination my friends bragged about in their husbands. So when my husband said, "Do whatever makes you satisfied, live a little," I decided maybe that's exactly what I was going to do. At first, it wasn't anything crazy with Enrique. We'd grab coffee after meetings, sit in his car, and chat while he smoked a cigarette, linger in conference rooms after everyone else had left. He'd ask about my course projects, tell me I had real vision, how he wished more people had my kind of creativity. I told myself it was harmless, even good for me. A strong client relationship, that's what all the design blogs say. Make your clients feel connected, and they'll keep coming back. But one late night after drinks, the line blurred. He leaned in, kissed me. I kissed him back. And the next thing I knew, it wasn't just work anymore. We started sleeping together almost every time we met. The adrenaline was crazy. I justified it by telling myself it would help the work. Keep him happy, keep the projects flowing. Win-win. I wasn't betraying my husband. I was investing in my career. That's the lie I told myself. But then it became routine. Enrique taking me to nice restaurants, slipping his hand over mine in the back of his car, booking hotels under his assistant's name, and me letting it happen. Told myself I deserved it after all the years of settling. The night it all came crashing down. I was getting ready for bed when I noticed my husband standing by the dresser, holding my bag. His face pale, like he'd just seen a ghost. "Looking for gum?" he said, flatly, pulling out a small box of condoms. Not the brand we ever used, not even opened. My heart slammed in my chest. Enrique asked me to buy an extra pack to use because we ran out. I forgot to pass them to him and left them in my bag instead, like an idiot. I opened my mouth to explain, but nothing came out. Then he reached into his pocket, unfolded a stack of papers, and laid them on the bed. Receipts, hotel bookings, restaurant charges, rideshare drop-offs to Enrique's condo building, all highlighted. "I need you to tell me the truth," he said, his voice low, shaking but steady. I felt my throat close up. I wanted to deny it, to grab the papers and rip them up. Instead, I blurted out the only thing I could cling to. "You told me to go out. You said, do whatever makes me satisfied." I took that as permission. His eyes widened, like I'd slapped him. Permission to cheat? To lie to me? To sleep with him behind my back? I scrambled, desperate to justify. "You disappeared into work. You weren't here. I was alone, and I needed excitement, attention, basic things. And yes, Enrique gave me that. You said live a little. That's what I did." He shook his head, staring at me like I was someone he didn't recognize. "End it. Block him. We'll start counseling. I'll cut hours. I'll take a weekend off. Just stop this." For a second, I almost said yes. I almost promised I'd end it. But then Enrique's face flashed in my mind. His compliments, the restaurants, the way my friends looked at me when I flaunted something new, the way it felt to be admired, spoiled. I crossed my arms, cold. "No, I won't. I finally feel seen. I won't crawl back to coupon codes and waiting on the couch. I feel like I was the one cheated out of my time, my youth. You changed first, not me." He dropped into the chair, staring at the floor. "So you're choosing him? Over me. Over us." I pushed further. "If you want a divorce, fine. Go ahead. You know what will happen. I'll get half. Probably support for a while too. And if you start spinning stories about me, I'll tell everyone how you abandoned me, how you pressured me into this lifestyle and then left me alone. People will believe me." The silence after that felt like a bomb went off. He didn't yell, didn't throw anything. Just sat there, holding the receipts like they were some puzzle he couldn't solve. That night, he moved to the spare room, stopped eating properly. We barely spoke. A mutual friend texted me a week later saying he seemed off, like he was shutting down. I brushed it off. If he has a problem, he should say something. Fast forward a year. Enrique faded the way adrenaline always does. Work got awkward, then quiet. My friends moved on to new bragging rights. I still had the Saint Laurent bag, but it hung in the closet like evidence. At home, we lived like strangers, 2 doors, 2 clocks, the same last name. One Tuesday, I came home early. The apartment was dim, blinds half drawn, the kind of hush that feels padded. His door was cracked. I knocked, no answer. "Hey," I said softly, pushing it open. He was on the bed, shoes off, arms at his sides, like he'd just laid down for a minute. I touched his shoulder. "Babe, wake up." Nothing. I shook him harder, still nothing. My throat closed. I fumbled my phone and called 911. My voice broke as I gave the address, begged them to hurry. The sirens came fast, but not fast enough. Neighbors gathered. Officers guided me into the hall. I stared at the chipped paint on the doorframe like it could explain what had just happened. Then Mark showed up. His face was wrecked before he even saw me. He went inside with the officers, and when he came back out, he didn't soften it. "You know why this happened," he said quietly, almost shaking. "He went into debt trying to keep up with what you wanted. Overtime wasn't enough, so he took out loans. He thought he was failing you." My chest hollowed. "Debt?" I whispered. Mark's jaw clenched. "He was killing himself at work while you were with Enrique. You broke him. You can dress it up however you want, but the clear cause of death? It's you." My knees buckled. I grabbed the doorframe like it could hold me up, shaking my head. No, you don't get it. He told me to go out. He said live a little. I thought..." My voice cracked. Even I didn't believe it anymore. The papers, the condoms, the silence between us, they all roared back at once. Mark didn't flinch. He just looked at me like I was a stranger. "You bled him dry," he said. "In every way." My chest squeezed so tight I couldn't breathe. The hallway tilted, then disappeared. That was the last thing I remembered before everything went black. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. White walls, 4 in my arm, the kind of sterile quiet that makes you realize no one's waiting in the chair beside you. They said I'd collapsed from shock. They asked if I had someone to call. I didn't. Enrique had moved on months ago, onto some new project, some new girl. My husband was gone. Now I'm about to be discharged, about to go back to that apartment, but nobody's there anymore. No hum of his laptop on the couch, no discount flowers on the counter, no second door opening down the hall. Just me, the ring in a drawer, and the silence I traded everything for.